When we talk about Tony Soprano and his affairs, we can see not just a crime story, but a living embodiment of principles that were seemingly described in ancient treatises. Like a prince, he didn't rely on luck or the brilliance of talent, knowing that all of that is fleeting. His philosophy, even if it wasn't formalized into strict rules, came down to one thing. The most important thing is order and predictability. Many new leaders believe in the power of bright ideas, eloquent speeches, and natural charisma. Tony, however, saw this as smoke and mirrors, effective, but ultimately useless. He watched young people come into his business with burning enthusiasm, how they experienced their first successes and mistook them for a permanent state of affairs. But Tony knew that true weight only appears when that initial burst of energy runs out. He had seen it time and again. The flashiest new guys on the block, the ones who talked the biggest game, were often the first to fall. Their empires were built on emotion, not on a solid foundation. They'd get a big score, throw a party, and get complacent. But a few months later, when the heat was on or a deal went sideways, they'd unravel. Their lack of discipline meant they couldn't handle the pressure. They'd make rash decisions, betray their own people, and ultimately crumble. Tony, on the other hand, understood that the real game was a marathon, not a sprint. The foundation of power. Power and influence, in his view, are not held by flashes of inspiration, but by the ability to act when everyone else is faltering. He was consistent, even when it seemed there was no immediate result. His ability to make decisions at an inconvenient time, when everyone else was waiting for the right moment, was his true capital. He understood that talent can be captivating, but it can't go the distance. Luck is too unstable to build a system upon. Discipline, in his understanding, was the foundation. It was revealed not in moments of triumph, but in routine work, in the ability to maintain the same rhythm during both growth and decline. Tony did not close his eyes to unpleasant figures and facts. He knew how to cut the fat when temptation demanded expansion. In this, he saw the resemblance of his business to a living organism. One that doesn't have immunity, discipline, will not withstand external blows. He wasn't afraid to confront an unpleasant truth, to tell a subordinate that their numbers were slipping, or to cut ties with a partner who was becoming a liability. He knew that ignoring a problem, no matter how small, was like ignoring a cancer cell. It would only grow and spread until it destroyed the whole. The enemy within. Chaos. Tony Soprano knew that chaos was the biggest enemy of order. Many leaders, chaotic by nature, create only the illusion of a buzzing energy. Behind the external brilliance of meetings and presentations lies a lack of systematic work. And when the market, or in his case, another family, demanded results, all of these efforts proved to be empty. He saw it in his own crew. Some of the guys were all talk and no action, always busy, but never productive. They'd create a whirlwind of activity, phone calls, meetings, new schemes that gave the impression of progress. But when he looked closer, there was no systematic work. No one was following up, no one was tracking the numbers, and no one was taking responsibility for the end result. This kind of fake work was a breeding ground for failure. Tony understood that true productivity wasn't about being busy. It was about being effective. The most important test for a leader came not during success, but at the moment of crisis. When everything was going well, it seemed the system worked on its own. But as soon as pressure began, when revenue dropped, partners left, it became clear who had a real foundation. Most would flail in a panic, trying to fix everything at once. But Tony understood that true work is not a series of frantic attempts, but a calm and systematic movement. He'd seen rivals make reckless moves in a crisis, expanding into new territories or starting pointless wars, only to be destroyed. He, on the other hand, would double down on his core principles, cut unnecessary expenses, and maintain a steady course. Real trust is formed when everyone around you loses their footing, but you continue to move forward with the system, without hysteria or rush. The legacy of discipline. This is why discipline was his main capital. When his crew saw that their leader kept his word, fulfilled promises, and did not hide from difficult tasks, a sense of reliability arose that was more valuable than any motivational speech. It was the feeling that no matter what happened, the person at the top was in control. This stability allowed his people to focus on their jobs without worrying about the whims or erratic behavior of the boss. In the end, companies or crews fell apart not because they had a weak product, but because they lacked order. History showed that in times of crisis, some would burn out, others would shrink and lose their standing, and still others would disappear entirely. But those who had built discipline into their daily work would emerge from the crisis stronger. They retained clients because they fulfilled their obligations. They kept their people because the order and predictability within the organization gave them confidence in the future. They kept their investors because they demonstrated the ability to manage the numbers and make decisions without panic. Tony Soprano's understanding came down to a simple conclusion. In the long run, the winners are not the most talented, but the most consistent. Those who managed to make discipline a habit grew more slowly, but much more steadily. And after 10 years, they were the only ones left in the market. Everything else could change: fashion, technology, the rules of the game. But the habit of finishing what you start always remained the one thing that determined success.